Well, look, media is terribly important because our democracy depends on a good parliamentary system, a very honest judiciary, high standard, which it undoubtedly is, and a challenging, cynical press. Those three elements are integral parts working together of the democracy as we know it today. So yes, newspapers, as we know them, are under enormous challenge. However, Fairfax has never had more readers. It has never had greater distribution. And the amount of people that are using our hits on our iPad sites for the Sydney Morning Herald, The Age and the Financial Review, and our internet sites, our other sites that are available, have never ever been higher. So we are seeing an immense change in how news and comment on news is delivered. And so Fairfax, in company with all major newspapers around the world, including, of course, News Corp papers, are all under significant challenge. Fairfax have built up a very substantial digital business, and we are in a position to be able to, better position than anyone else probably, to be able to make that transition as the public want to make the transition. The quality of our journalism, the accuracy of the news, the relevance of our comment, and the quality of it will be the determining factors for the future.
There's been a lot written, a lot of speculation about why the Fairfax board invited Jack Cowan to join it. Was it a peace offering to Gina Rinehart, or are you trying to win Jack Cowan onto your side?
Well, look, I would never make any comment about any director joining the board. My discussions with someone who might be joining the board, that's confidential discussion, whether it's Jack Cowan or Gina Rinehart or James Miller or anyone else who might be talking to me about joining the Fairfax board. Jack Cowan was invited to join the Fairfax board because the Fairfax board judged that Jack would make a very valuable contribution to that board in his own right as an independent, and I'm sure he will, and I look forward very much to working with him. I've known him for a long, long time. He's a man that I have the highest of regard for, and I think he'll make a great contribution to the Fairfax board.
What exactly, practically, what would that mean? What would he bring to Fairfax meeting?
Well, first of all, he brings, he's a very sharp, clever, successful man. He's got an entrepreneurial flair, and he's very shrewd. So, you know, they're the type of basic human skills that are very, very important in business. But he's also had enormous experience over a lifetime. He's a very experienced man, good judgment. But he's run a very successful business himself, so the credentials are there. And, of course, he's been on the board of Channel 10 where he's made a lot of money personally, despite the fact of Channel 10 having its present problems along with everyone else in the media industry. So yes, no, I'm delighted to have Jack on the board, as are my colleagues on the board.
Shares of Fairfax have hit another record low. How frustrating is that, particularly in light of Gina Rinehart's very public criticism of the board's performance?
Well, I'm not going to comment, as I said, on Gina Rinehart's comments. She's entitled to make those comments. Fairfax shares have performed much in line with other media stocks around Australia. And very, very clearly, there's a very significant transitional period that we're going through. And the people are well aware of the risks involved in that transition. And whilst we would like our shares to be placed other, we're doing our very best to manage that process, preserve the value of the papers, develop those internet sites so there are other alternatives. As you develop a more effective internet alternative, and particularly in this interim stage where we're developing the volumes before charging for that service, so in other words, you can get, at the present time, your Sydney Morning Herald free on the internet and you have to pay for it in copy. During that period of change, yes, we understand that people do have concerns. But if you don't do it, you certainly have no future.
Has it been grating to sort of read what's been written about the performance of the board?
Well, there's been a lot written. Let me tell you, I think the board is performing really well in making that transition. The facts are the facts, and there is an enormous movement of people from newsprint to digital. There is a variety of ways of accessing your news that weren't previously available. So we can't change any of those facts. They are facts that are facing Fairfax and facing the rest of the world. So we're not unique. My view is that the internet sites that we have produced are, if not the best, amongst the best in the world. The better those sites, the more appealing they are, the more it affects your distribution of newspapers.
Looking at, I guess, the forces pulling Fairfax, it seems to be being pulled quite quickly down the digital path. But, I mean, the revenues from print are still quite strong, I mean, 75%. Do you feel that you are being pulled down that digital path a little too quickly?
No, we are driven by the actual advertising in the papers, and that advertising is starting to drop, and that's our main revenue stream. Of course, newspapers still have a very valuable place to go in terms of display advertising, and whilst people might go to domain.com to access a house that they might want to look in a particular district, they really only do that if they're looking for a house. But very often you can be flicking through the paper and see a house and you think, gee. So the newspapers are still very good at a place for people that do not intend to make a transaction, are not looking for a job, but see a display ad for a particular job that appeals, might be quite happy in the job they've got. So newspapers still play a very important part in that field, but yes, there's a movement, and there is a spread to other sources of advertising. So we are working very hard on maintaining the quality of our papers as much as we possibly can within the cost constraints we've got, and making our internet sites as good as we possibly can. There will always, I think, be some newspapers published. At what level they will be, I don't know. I don't think anyone else does. But what I do know is a lot of people are going to be using the internet for their news in the future, and we've got to make sure that we have a place there, and a really good place in that market, or we probably won't be in business.
On the radio side of the business, any update for us on potential sale there? Any further interested parties at all looking over that business?
No, our radio business is a very good business, and it's been extremely well managed. And I think it's got quite an upside for Fairfax for the future.